We are recording. All right. So to reiterate, we are meeting on Thursday, and after this week, everything will shift to an online format for the rest of the semester, which will probably be okay since we've had plenty of weeks in person. So I think that it's a little easier to work online if you've met in person. So, all right. Now, my hand is there. Pen, pencils. Okay. So some of the shapes that you have, if you're tracing the shapes in your photograph, then we'll a little bit bigger. Get this out. More here. Good. Okay. So some of the shapes that you're tracing are going to be kind of irregular. Larger. And then you'll have, so this is just an approximation of some kinds of, detailed shapes you might have. You will probably you're going to have to edit, because some of the shapes and some of these like little, ends of shapes that get really thin or small might not be possible for you. It might not be possible for you to get in there. So, and that's fine. Okay, and I'm going to mix up. Sorry, I should have had this. The water is up here. It's prepped. This is kind of like a cooking show. You really, for demonstrations, I have everything set up ahead of time. And make sure you have rags within reach so that you can wipe paint off your hands, not on your pants. Make sure that you brush paint on some surface. Like this. Okay. I will be right back. I need to get a rag. Oh. Preparation, man. Okay. Oh, boy. No matter how early you start setting up, you always forget something. All right, let's make some nice green here. And be nice if the paint didn't shed these little dried crumbs of paint from the threads all over the place when you open the jars, but oh well, that's the way it goes. It's the price we pay for an inexpensive paint that works well, which is a rarity in the art world. Usually things that are cheap don't work well. get what you pay for, as they say. All right, don't think I need the blue brush anymore, so I'll put it in the water. White. Okay, I'll use this brush for the mixer. This brush, grab some white. Actually, I'll grab a lot of white. Glue up in the collar of that brush, dang. Okay. I'm gonna watch it. Okay. Let's see some color magic start to happen. So I'm just deciding today that that green is one of my colors. I think I want to get a light color. So one of the challenges with this assignment is making sure that when you have a light value in the photograph, mixing the appropriately light value of color to match it, that's challenging. The more common thing I see in these assignments is that the light values in the photograph are represented too darkly in the painting. So start with white, add a little bit of color, and get that light the way you need to. So that's pretty good. Now, back to this. So I was tracing these shapes, and I'm going to transfer them. Now I'm going to transfer it face up, which means I'm going to have to put graphite behind these things. I take that and do this, because there's graphite on both sides, I might not be able to see my line anymore. So what I will do, just going to remind you, and I'm going to, when you have a curly end to your roll of tracing paper, you need to make sure you tape it, since it will curl up every time you shift it, and it will be really irritating. It's happening for me right now. So we'll take some of this tape. There. That way I can lift it if I need to. Right, so I'll go back over this. Right, just make it as close as you can. Remember that the more accurately you trace and paint the shapes, the more it's going to look like the subject of your photograph. So don't get too impatient with this process. It can take some time to go back over that and trace this. You know, if you've already traced it, you're going to trace it again in ink, but it can be well worth it. So that, I already got some of that to transfer. So that even just like with a regular, this is an HB pencil. There's the camera. HB. Normally I would want a softer pencil, 4B pencil, which would be softer, but you might not have one since it's not a requirement for the class to have that. So a regular number 2 pencil is an HB pencil, so like this. Oh, and it's not sharp. Well, let's correct that. There we go. All right. So I can see clearly what the tracing is when I flip this tracing paper. I might get a little bit of this transferring. I am getting a little bit of this transferring. So if you're trying to keep this Bristol piece clean, you might do this on another surface or put some other piece of paper down as a barrier. All right, there. So this way I can clearly see the line of my tracing. And then I'll go back over it. So you want to tape this when you do this, of course, so that it doesn't keep shifting on you. You will not get a very good tracing if you don't tape the tracing paper down. Right? And then you can lift it and see, and I can see I also had a little bit of ghost imagery from my other but that's all right. So as long as I can see this, it's all right that it's light. It's actually, you want this. You don't want this. You don't want this tracing to be too dark, because if you're painting a light color, then that graphite can very easily mix with the light paint and sort of make it kind of dirty looking. See, I'm missing a little detail there. Good. So good. Just check your tracing if you see there's some vague part that's transferred. Okay. Watch out that your eraser's not dirty. All right. And as you may already know, you don't have enough graphite on the bottom part of this tracing. It won't transfer well. So there is a little bit of back and forth here. Let's see this is more clearly. Good. All right, so I think I can see this pretty well here. So keep that light, not so light that you can't see it, but not, no, not like not so dark that you will dirty up your color. Okay. More of this white here. All right, so here is the reason you need to have small round brushes. Now this is a brush I've used before. But if I get it wet, then it will so like the bristles will stick together more to a point. Okay. There. So get it wet. I don't want to pour water into this, but if my brush is wet, it allows, sort of like makes this paint flow a little better. So turn the brush, oh, can't see that. There. Okay. Start in a bigger area. Bigger again. And then I'll push the paint right up to that pencil line. If you flatten the brush, you can get a little bit more paint off of it. But, you know, this is challenging, of course. And this is a slow process. This is one of the reasons I allow more time for it, for this project. Because I know that this painting, I mean, this is a process that would be challenging for me, and I have lots of experience. So if you're newer to, you're newer to this, this kind of painting, or really any kind of painting, then this will take you more time, and you should really just be patient. Your first couple of sessions of painting, you might not see a whole lot of progress, but stick with it. All right, and then if I want to make this adjacent color darker, I might need to turn you might have cups where you've got like a bunch of different, like slightly different values, and slight variations on hues in one spot, like a ceramic plate. If you have some old like an old plate that doesn't really get used much, then you might just use a big plate. I have that. And when I paint with gouache, which is opaque watercolor, which is pretty much gouache is what this chroma paint is replacing. I've been using this ceramic plate for years, and the paint is water soluble, so after it dries, I can still like reactivate it with some water. So this is this looks like a great big mess, but I know exactly where to go to try to create some colors. All right, and then I'll just made a little mess here. Okay, so I made this a little, just slightly darker green. I'm going to paint it in an adjacent shade. So if I want to paint this one, I want to get up to that edge. I think it'd be better if I turn the paper over, so I can come at it. Oh, you focus, please. There we go. So I can come at it from a different direction. There we go. So if you're trying to create like a subtle difference in value, this color that I'm painting right now is a little more saturated and just a little bit darker. There. So I can see that this one has dried almost. It's not completely flat, but you're not going to be able to get these colors as flat as when you're painting up just like a sample, sample chip. So, all right now, Yeah, I think that, right. So I have white in this paint, to create these, like, I guess to affect the saturation and the value, you use white, white or a lighter gray to lighten the color, black, darker gray to darken the color, and then there's also the complement, where if I'm using this yellow green, then like a red violet would be the complement, and I would probably be mixing, if I wanted to dull this with a little bit of, let's see, if I do blue, a little, confident that it won't affect the red if I use the brush to put some blue in it. So you see I got a little bit of, so with your complementary mixture, as long as it's close, well, that's nice. Sorry, can't see that. Just trying to hold it close so I can see it. Nice color. Yeah, so this it's a very interesting process of discovery that happens when you start mixing in complements, black and white. You get this range of kind of you can predict it if you are you can predict it to a degree because you know a little bit about color theory, but it's one of those things where you might not be completely sure what you're going to get until you see it happen. There, so this is like a red violet mixed in over that green, that yellow green, and here comes Elliot about to get into the middle of everything. Hey, I'm just going there. That's good. That's cool. I like that. You might have like if you've got a border drawn for the size of your photograph, you can do these little color samples out in the margin, or you can have just a scrap piece where you can paint that a little bit. You can see it. I've got a little blue there. That's because there's still a little bit of there's some blue in the bristles. I didn't really clean it out well enough, so that's what happens. So be careful. That is a really nice color right there. Good. And if I see, you're pulling. See, if I don't mix it well enough, I can start to pull some other color off the bristles. There. So if you paint this right to the edge, you would be able to compare. That's a darker value. Good. All right. And then I will take this larger. See what I can do with my larger round brush. If you're careful, even if you're using a larger brush, it's too watery now, dang it. Too much water on the brush, oh well. Well, let's see. If I had to, I could paint a second layer. All right, so push the paint. Sort of like start in the middle and then push the brush out to the edges. Oh, I just went over that. This is a little bit. It's okay. Just use the end of the brush. Just the point. All right. So I'll keep turning my brush so I can kind of keep it on the point. As you brush, you kind of change where the point's at. Okay. And if I want to try to even this out, since this is a fairly thin layer, I might be able to just, it's really already starting to dry. So I might be able to just go over it with like broader strokes. But as I said earlier, if you can there's really room to leave this a little bit thinner. See if I can correct that. Yes, I can. That's good. Good. Just trying to even that out a little bit. All right, there we go. So it's a painstaking and detailed process, as you can see. Take your time. You can also see where some of the really fine shapes in your tracing might not be possible when you are when you're actually painting them. So, but what I want here is I want to try to maintain clear edges from one one hue to the next, and even here within like this sort of yellow-green hue, there's a slight variation in hue, but it's also primarily I'm getting this different value. So you can be creative with how you apply the color. You don't have to use like a warm, warm brown or rosy color for skin color. You can make skin color green if you want to. This is, really the assignment as a color assignment is to ask you to apply a complementary color scheme and also to start to see a relationship between value in black and white and how and value in color. So value in color is harder. It's harder to see because it's not something that we think about consciously when we are evaluating color. Maybe there are some people who have been doing it from childhood. I would say that's rare and unlikely. You can identify red, green, but which one's lighter, which one's darker, that's not something that we normally go right to it. So you have to learn it, and you have to very specifically do stuff like this so that you can learn it. Any questions? Yeah, so the paint itself is the same, but when you're trying to mix it and like apply it, like if I'm painting, it's like it's almost like it has to be a little bit thinner. Come on, focus. Oh, boy. So larger background areas, you will use a larger brush. So let's say first, if I'm painting a sample, and I mix this up. It's very easy to just like make this square like that. I don't need nearly as much control. Controlling these smaller shapes is harder, so it's going to make it, it's just it's harder to make them opaque in one layer. I want you to make them as opaque as you can. Now, for larger areas, if you have a, let's see, where is this? Let's say that, somewhere out here is like this is an edge of something, and then out here you have like a background. It's kind of like this does end up looking like map shapes. So like a large area like that, you need more paint. So you need to make sure that you've got the paint you need. You might use more than one brush. I might use the flat brush to start off, like, I have to get my other brush ready too. So keeping the brush wet helps you to control those smaller shapes. Okay. So if I'm just like have the brush in contact with the paper, and then just like push it over to the edge, I can start to get more of that large shape, and then before it dries, come back and kind of soften that edge a little bit. But the larger areas I think are going to be challenging because the surface of the paint will probably start to dry before you're done painting it out. So it might be better to just try to control a section So here I'm going to press to get the paint off the brush. Shoot, that's where it's easy to lose control a little bit. But larger areas are going to be challenging. So do your best, as always. We have to come back and try to clean that up. I guess I would come back and try to clean that up with the next color that's out here. Dip in your water. So you want to keep if the paint starts to dry up on the brush and there's too much resistance painting, it's really impossible to keep it smooth. But I do have a certain, I have a limited working time with the paint, but I do have some time. You want to keep the brush moving, especially where you're on the edge of an area you painted, so that you can try to avoid getting like a seam in there. And here's Elliot. Elliot, please do not walk on my painting. Thank you. Let's go over there. Okay, and then this guy. To do that. Oh, let's see. Shoot. I'm going to nip that into it came from the towel. All right, let's try to work that in as best I can. Okay. When you press the brush down, you get more of the paint off the brush. So if it's looking a little thin, I will do that. That's better. So I got that bit to clean up later whenever I paint that other shape. Okay, good. So again, come here and that edge. So here I'll just keep pulling this over. It's a little uneven, but not bad. But as you know, you need to let them dry. If I needed to, if we go back over that, that's getting a little bit thin. It's just because I don't have quite enough paint there. So I would try as much as I can, like this, the corner of the flat brush. I can do some of this. So you would see, like, you know, if I'm working with a big brush trying to get this big shape done, I will try to do as much as I can with the big brush and save the smaller brush for the finer details, because I want to be able to cover this as fast as I can. So does that help to see that? Good. Well, it's a lot of, you know, it is like a lot of technique. Hey, stop. My boys are getting a little, they get a little out of control when they play. Elliot was just about to bite Dennis's back, and that's been a once upon a time, he gave him a pretty serious puncture wound that got infected. I discovered it later. So, Elliot is the cutest little panda bear, but if you mess with him and push him too far, then he doesn't mess around. Hey, Elliot, talking to me because I'm not paying attention to him. So if I know I'm going to have some color coming in over on this shape, especially if this is darker, then I've got, like if I do that, just to make sure that I get this lighter color on that edge. Elliot, oh, he cries as if he's in distress because he knows that it gets my attention. So cute. All right, so let's say there's a darker color. Whoop. There's a darker color in here, and I've got this little bit of overpainting. No problem. All right. There. So the darker color will cover the lighter one. You can cover darker colors with the lighter one, but it's harder to do that. Even like this is a little bit thin. I need more paint out. I just don't want to stop right at the moment, mix more color. But I can still see, you can still see this edge much more clearly now. So, there are a lot of lessons to take from this because, you need contrast in order to see things. That's how we see anything. It won't come as a surprise, I'm sure, but there are no contour lines drawn around all the objects that you see when you are going about your day. You see everything by contrast. If there's no contrast, then you can't really see anything. Certainly, if there's no light, you can't see anything. So the more you can create edges with contrast, the more realistic it appears to be, even if you are depicting something that is not real or realistic. So, there. Any other questions? Dennis. Oh, Dennis. His back is wet from Elliot biting him. All right. Well, work on your paintings. Just push them along a little bit. If you can only tolerate painting for 1 hour at a time, then paint for 1 hour at a time, and make progress. If you can imagine if you spend an hour a day or an hour or 2 hours every other day, this is going to get done. But the first few sessions, it's not going to look like you're getting much done. Just be patient and trust the process. All right. Well, I'll see you on Thursday for our last in-person meeting, and I will try to make sure we have all the questions answered so that we know what we're doing. You know what you're doing for the rest of the semester.